Hey everyone. First of all, I apologize if this goes off prematurely. It's been doing that a lot lately. So, again, I do apologize for that. As you can tell, I'm a little tired and everything, but I figured I'd get this out of the way, kind of give my thoughts on something that, again, I gotta give credit to that long-haired creepy guy, TLHCG, for doing. In case you don't know, TLHCG has been doing retrospectives of a lot of animated shows that we all grew up on. And one of them he's talking about is X-Men, and we're not talking the '89 pilot. We're talking the 1990s cartoon phenomenon that was the X-Men. And I could tell you honestly, in response to that, my memories of and I guess you could consider this as a cartoon flashback, if you will, episode, cartoon flashback HD, that is. I remember watching X-Men when it came out. Now, I slowly started reading the comics from time to time because I think my older sister had some of them, and I think like I said, I think my older sister had some of them, and excuse me, tired. But like I said, I think it's my older sister had some of them, and of course there were the games, and you had the Pride of the X-Men pilot that had come out and stuff like that. So you had all this, you had all this X-Men stuff, and it was it was quite the phenomenon already. I mean, it was one of the more popular comic books out there to date. So it was, for Marvel or for any publisher. So to read it was great. And little trivia, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this. One of my mom's cousins, who would be like a second or third cousin to me, maybe mostly a second cousin, was a colorist for, I think a colorist, I believe, or an artist, colorist, whatever, for Marvel, and most importantly, the X-Men books. And his name was Joe Rosas. So to know that, to have that kind of a connection to it in a sense, was pretty cool. Again, was pretty cool. But I remember we watched X-Men when it came out, and like any kid, teenager at that time, we were blown away. And ironically, this came out basically a year before Sonic SatAM came out, and you could definitely see somewhat of a similarity in characters and personality when SatAM came out the following year on ABC. A big similarity or example of that was Bunny Rabbit, who was a Southern Southern female character, was the strongest of the group, the powerhouse, if you will, but was sweet and kind unless you ticked her off. And when I saw Bunny's character and I heard her voice, and I saw that she was basically, like I said, the powerhouse of the team, I immediately noticed that she was very similar, if not a Sonic take on Rogue, with the exception of she didn't drain anybody's powers temporarily or anything like that. She was just very similar as being the strongest of the group. And again, that was one probably the biggest examples of similarity or maybe inspiration taken for a show. Another inspiration maybe or similarity in a sense would be Sally and even Nicole, both having similar traits to Jean Grey in a sense, and Storm. Sally more of a blend of what Jean Grey and Storm is, and Nicole being more Jean Grey-like, even though she was a portable handheld at the time. So, to see that influence thrown in there was kind of awesome to see, because it's like you're watching two shows that are dark, gritty, kind of mostly action-oriented in a sense, a majority of a sense. They're both action-oriented. Like I said, they're both action-oriented, dark, gritty, take themselves very seriously for most times in most episodes of story arcs. And, it was, for that 2 years, if you will, it was a great time to be a fan of both video game characters adapted into cartoons with Sonic SatAM and comic books adapted into cartoons with X-Men. It was a great time. The only difference is X-Men lasted a few more years than Sonic did, so they got to basically take home the bragging rights. And like I said, I remember watching it in 1992, and I was watching it here in California. And my cousin, who's the same age, who's 2 years older than me, basically the same age as my second oldest sister, would record. He would dedicate, and this is why I got the idea to do the same thing, not just with VHS, but with DVDs as well. He would dedicate a VHS tape to one season. If it took 2 VHS tapes to do it, he would do it. And, again, that's what kind of inspired me to do what I did, to do the same thing. But, like I said, he basically started recording season after season. And again, it was one of the shows that we would wake up and get to watch if we could, depending on our depending on our living situation at the time. We would get up and be able to watch it. And for what it was, X-Men really was, the Saturday morning cartoon, besides Sonic SatAM and several others, that you wanted to see. You wanted to see it. And not only did you want to see it, but you wanted to make sure you caught every episode. And I remember when the 3rd season came around, we did the 1st season, which was the introductory season. We did the 2nd season, which really brought in new villains, new characters, introduced more mutants and all that. I remember when the 3rd season came around, Fox announced that they were going to take the first 2 episodes, the 2-parter Out of the Past episode, a storyline, and adapt it into a primetime special, to a 2-week primetime special, along with Power Rangers, which went for about 3 weeks. And that was kind of a surprising move on their part to do that, but I think, in a sense, it was a testing ground to see if maybe these shows could float on prime time. And I thought it was and to me, I thought it was a great success for them. It worked. It got my attention. It got a lot of other people's attention, especially the ending of Out of the Past. When they zoom up into space, a little over Earth, they zoom up over Earth, outside, in space, and you see these flames just shoot up, and it says "coming soon," and then you see these big words saying "coming soon," coming right into your screen, and then it goes from that and says, "The Phoenix Saga." And you knew the moment they did that, even if you didn't read the Phoenix Saga the first time, you knew this was a big, big deal for them, because they were basically going to adapt one of the most critically acclaimed and talked about story arcs in comic book history. One of the biggest game changers. Because it was. Honestly, it was one of the biggest game changers out there. So, to me, to see that, to see them actually come out and basically use the ending of their Out of the Past two-part third season premiere episode of story, and to use it as a prelude, just like The Void was a prelude to the Doomsday Saga, the 4 episodes of Doomsday Saga. Just like The Void, like I said, was a prelude to that. Out of the Past, Part 1 and 2, was a prelude to the Phoenix Saga. Because they basically, like I said, they pan up from the sewers where, the X-Men are at, after they've rescued the Morlocks and they've defeated this spirit drinker and restored everybody's soul, and thus was able to restore everybody's souls to the rightful bodies, or spirits, I should say. I can recall just seeing that thing come up, just them panning up into space, above Earth. You see this, like I said, this half circle of fire rising up behind the Earth, or around the Earth. And then you see the words, "coming soon, the Phoenix Saga." And then all of a sudden you see the Phoenix Saga. And again, it told you they were making this a big deal, because it basically, you were adapting, again, one of the most critically acclaimed comic book stories of all time into a story arc, a 5-part story arc, which when you piece together is a terrific movie to watch. And, for the adaptation that they did for the Phoenix Saga, I thought it was pretty good. They still basically killed off Jean Grey, who had to sacrifice herself, but the only difference was they didn't keep her dead. No. They brought her back. And just like in other stories, when she was brought back, she became the Dark Phoenix. And they did a good job on that. They did kill her at the end of Dark Phoenix, but they used a Deus Ex Machina, if you will, to restore her to life, because you can't kill, even then you couldn't kill off major characters in cartoons, even if the cartoon was based on a comic book, and that story arc that they were adapting was based on one of the best-selling comics of all time, comic stories of all time, one of them anyway. So I liked that, and I liked how even though it was adapting, like I said, all these popular comic book stories and semi-popular comic book stories from the X-Men and X-Men related titles into the show, I like how they were able to adapt them almost, not to a T, but almost to the point that they were they were faithful to the source material, but you could tell they had to take liberties because, like I said, it was a cartoon aimed at kids and teens, so they had to take liberties on how they handled different characters and situations. So, overall, I thought, X-Men did a decent job on that. I really do. I think the staff behind it did a decent job and everything. But then, of course, later on, the show, animation-wise, shifted from Saban animation, apparently, to Marvel Studios animation, and you could see the big difference in character design and everything, because the Marvel Studio animators stayed true to what was in the comics. They stayed true to the character designs in the comics. Like with Jean Grey, up to that point, her design was nothing short of her being, was nothing more than her being in her uniform with with her hair pulled out into a ponytail in the back of it, of a headpiece of her uniform. Of course, except for when she did the Phoenix deal, and she was out of uniform and all that. Most of the time in uniform, it mostly consisted of her having a ponytail in the back. Now, you might say, well, when they crossed the X-Men over with Spider-Man, they were still the same way. Well, because they were playing off the designs that were given to them by the Saban animators. So when Marvel Studios finally took over, Marvel Studios Animation finally took over, they basically, in my opinion, said, okay, we're going to do the animation now, we're going to do the character designs, let's make them more truer to what they read in the comics. And that's what you got. And I thought it was okay. It was a nice, it definitely, to me, it definitely played into the fact that every now and then, even if it's a few seasons apart, a series is going to go through a drastic animation, artistic art design, with not just with the characters, but with the overall look. And that's what X-Men did, but they still stayed true to what made the show popular. And I can't say enough about that. I really can't. Now, did it have some hiccups production-wise? Yeah, X-Men had some hiccups production-wise, don't get me wrong. I mean, this one episode in the 4th season that was supposed to be in the 3rd season, that was supposed to be like a bridge, a connecting gap, a connector, a bridge connecting the gap between the Phoenix and Dark Phoenix sagas. So, you know, to me, I thought, so to me, that being probably one of the only hiccups they did, and I'm sure there were several others that people will point out, but that being the only hiccup that they, in my opinion, did, production-wise, I thought overall they did a decent job. I thought they really did. I mean, they, again, with every adaptation that they did, they stayed pretty much faithful to the source material, again, with some, with some, slight changes, if not some liberties taken to kind of make it fit more in tune of what was expected of a Saturday morning cartoon at the time. So again, I liked what they did overall, and I cannot recommend X-Men, the 1990s cartoon, any more than I am right now. So, really, that's all I have to say in response to TLHC's Long-Haired Creepy Guy's X-Men retrospective. Check it out. You'll like his thoughts and his little friend's thoughts on it. Check that out on YouTube. Type in X-Men retrospective TLHCG and you should find it. But overall, that is my response to it. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll talk to you all later. Again, I apologize if I'm a little off. I'm tired. I might go be taking a nap in just a bit to kind of help out. So, till next time, guys, take care, God bless, and I'm out.